you'd be hearing Michael Porter later this evening, and he says that competition should take into account not just for companies, it depends on the underlying industry structure, and therefore companies should look beyond their obvious competitors. So in that sense, for Bajaj, you should look beyond a Hero or a TVS. And so Anand Mahindra, in fact, recently made a very interesting comment saying that the Ubers and the Olas are a big challenge for the automobile industry. So they are not the traditional competitors for OEMs, but have they disrupted business? And what's your sense about new sort of disruptive innovation that's happening?
See, these are very complicated subjects, and I don't necessarily have the intellect to comprehend them. But my way of no, honestly, I mean it. I think without direct reference to Professor Porter, I would say this, that sometimes academics can say a lot of very complex things that sound very impressive. But does it help you as a manager? Because that's who I am. Does it help you to give a certain instruction to a certain department of the company to carry out a certain activity? Perhaps not. So it might make for very nice conversation, but it may not be so easy to translate that thought into work. This is one. Second, see, there can be an aggregator, there may be other ways. I have friends who are also actually developing such apps, if I may call them that help people connect and therefore utilize resources without owning them. And all this kind of thing is happening. But I would look at it like this, that first and foremost, somebody's still got to make the car, the SUV, the three-wheeler, the motorcycle, that the Uber, the Ola or whoever wants to use. I would also believe that there is a lot of wisdom in the saying that people buy what other people buy. At the end of the day, word of mouth is king. So if you have a differentiated product out there that is popular, that creates its own category, that has a sharp position, that offers a USP, then even if you don't own the car tomorrow and somebody else does, or at least part ownership or whatever it is that the structure will evolve into in terms of ownership, it's still my car that somebody has to buy, or my motorcycle. Will it exert necessarily pricing pressure? Will I one day be forced to sell at a discount? I don't think so, because I think free markets have a way of ensuring fair competition.
The water finds its own level.
I think so, and if something has not, sinister like this has not come together in the last 100 years, I would not get too paranoid about it happening anytime soon. I mean, as someone said, I think it was Mark Twain, he said, I have been through many terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened. So just focus on making the better car.
So what does your research tell you about the possible size of this market? It's a completely new product in India. So what does it say? I mean, how big do you think the market is? And will you be able to convince many of the auto drivers who are driving your three-wheeler to upgrade to a four-wheeler?
Very candidly, when you create a new category, be it a Walkman, who would think people would walk around with their music system strapped onto their waist? But it created a new category, and the sky was the limit then in terms of business potential. I'll give you an example. When we first developed the Pulsar in 2001, within the company, the most optimistic estimate of its monthly sale was 5,000 units. This motorcycle was introduced in November 2001. By February, we already crossed that figure. So I think it's absolutely open right now. And I say this myself in all sincerity, you could well have a scenario where this may not be the middle path, the proverbial optimum middle path. It may actually be the halfway house between a three-wheeler and a taxi. People might say, either I use the three-wheeler, or if I really want something on four wheels, I use a little car. Who wants a RE60? So, in that case, it will go nowhere. The other hand, at the very least, it could replace all the three-wheelers. I mean, we have had discussions, or my colleagues, I must be specific, have had discussions with the powers that be in the state of West Bengal, Karnataka, Maharashtra, a couple of other places. I don't know, I'm not sure. But I believe, at least for the major cities like a Bangalore or a Calcutta, which in any case represents most of the demand for little vehicles like this, because our vehicles are not hardy enough to be rural vehicles in that sense. These governments or these ministries are talking about replacing all three-wheelers with something like an RE60. So, you could have a complete dud, or you could have something that will have unending demand for the next 10 years, because there are 5 million Bajaj three-wheelers in this country. That's the inventory we have on the road. Now, if somebody decides to progressively replace all that in the interest of better mileage, better safety, better emission.
Will you be incentivizing? Will there be any incentives from Bajaj side, for your users of your three-wheelers to upgrade?
Always. We always do that. We have several incentives. It's called fuel injection. It's called triple spark technology. It's called water cooling. It's called doors.
Right.
I think we have really put our best foot forward in terms of technology, quality, and we will have an outstanding price as always let's just say, to encourage people to upgrade to something better.
Is there scope for a passenger vehicle variant of this?
See, from my point of view, the product itself is neutral.
Exactly.
It doesn't know whether you own it or you are only hiring it. So the product is as suitable for personal use as otherwise, and it completely foxes me. Why in this country, like in any other, a two-wheeler of any kind can be used as a personal vehicle and a commercial vehicle. A three-wheeler can be bought for personal use today, although it's primarily a commercial vehicle. A car, of course, is bought either personal or this thing. It is only this one vehicle, and again, I believe at the behest of a very large and significant competitor, who, in my opinion, was unduly paranoid about
which was
a maker of small cars, who was so concerned, that this humble little three-wheeler on four wheels might jeopardize its honeypot, let's say. And so they managed to prevail, I am told, upon the powers that be, to have this classified as a commercial vehicle alone. And in fact, I can tell you quite candidly, somebody very senior in government said to me, if you will give up on the personal segment, you will get approval for the commercial segment immediately. And I said, okay, fine, let's start with that.
The big, big affirmation, the big sort of endorsement for this came, of course, from the TUV, certification. Now, did you know there's actually an association for quadricycles in Europe? It's called Equal, and they estimate the size of the quadricycle market in Europe at about 340,000 odd. So so tell me about your Europe plans. How many countries will you start exporting to, and what's your own estimate? Because there are already 6-7 very good players, named players in the quadricycle market.
Yeah. See, all my strategy starts, or let me put it like this: my strategy is always brand centered. From a brand point of view, I think Europe needs this quadricycle like it needs a hole in the head. And you're quite right. It's a very different market in terms of its sophistication, in terms of the driving conditions, in terms of the affordability, and there are already half a dozen makers. So as far as I'm concerned, to use a management jargon, it's a red ocean. Why would I go there? For example, I have not gone there even for my motorcycles and three-wheelers. The only motorcycles I sell into US and Europe are the KTM motorcycles, because that is a brand that belongs there. The RE60 is to the southern hemisphere of the world, i.e. to South Asia, to ASEAN, to Africa, and to LATAM. What the European quadricycles are, I would say, to the northern hemisphere. So sometimes people are critical of what we've done. They say, what's the big deal? It's been done before, and that's a marginal category. As you said, maybe a couple of 100,000 vehicles every year. Bajaj is trying to make it mainstream here and parade it as God's gift to three-wheelers, for example. And my answer to that is that, look, as Newton said, your solution has to be unique only in the context of the problem that it is solving. I'm trying to solve a real problem here. People are on three wheels. People are without seat belts. People are without doors. People are exposed to the weather. So I'm trying to make something which is a quadricycle. In that sense, it is very much like what is in Europe. But that's a $10,000 quadricycle that's trying, or Euro quadricycle, that's trying to keep the snow out. Mine is far cheaper. And here's a vehicle that is going to emit only 60 grams per kilometer of CO2, that is going to deliver 35 kilometers a liter, and that everybody can buy, and not just a few very well-off people.
Which are the countries, Mr. Bajaj, do we see in Europe
Well, we have started. In fact, the first country that we are exporting to is Turkey. So that is very much Europe. We have started from there. In fact, maybe shipments are already on their way. But as of now, I don't think we are exporting. We have plans immediately to export anywhere else into Europe. There are many proposals, many thoughts, many ideas. You may have seen recently that each three-wheeler, as part of a charity event, was sold in London for something like £50,000. So, this is a very aspirational vehicle. Having said that, we are going to be shipping out to about 16 countries. Starting with Turkey as of yesterday, Sri Lanka, hopefully Bangladesh, I hope Nepal, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Peru, Mexico, Colombia, I hope Central America, Kenya, Tanzania. So as I said, the southern hemisphere is our target market because all our three-wheelers are sold there.
And in terms of regulations, do they all recognize the TUV regulations?
All of them do.
Right.
So we have developed this list after filtering countries out for either their ability to afford. Of course, we must have a good service setup. They're a good distributor. It should be it should preferably be a large market for a three-wheeler. So that is a condition. Of course, regulatory issues should not come in the way. So after keeping all these parameters in mind, we've chosen these as the first 16. Our three-wheelers go to many more than just 16 markets, and hopefully this will expand.
Okay, wish you all the very much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
To have somebody who can quote people during an interview, it makes the interview far more.
What to do? I have nothing smart to say for myself. I have to quote others.
Thank you very much, and wish you all the luck with the
RE60. Thanks a lot.